Hey, it's James from survivalpunk.com. Good morning. Today we're going to talk about what to do when there aren't replacement parts. When the replacement parts go away, planned obsolescence, some things like that. At least we're going to try to anyway. We will see how this goes. There's a chance this will be a short episode. I don't know. If you can't tell, I am under the weather. And it is a upper respiratory issue, so you obviously can't do a podcast without a voice, so there's that. So we'll see how it goes. I took 2 days off. I'm going to try to record a show today. Tomorrow I'm off and I'm going to the rheumatologist, so we really need to knock out an episode, or there's going to be like half of a week without episodes. We'll see. Before we get all that, though, let's take a listen to our morning theme music.
Sky is falling, bombs are raining, world's on fire, no more blaming. Economic crash can't stop the craving. Food is scarce, but we're remaining.
And we're back. I don't know if you've heard it, but I upgraded my AI music generator plan for a month. And I went back and I remastered some of the theme songs, especially the main one I use. I think it sounds a good deal better. So that's fun. And I might make some more theme songs. I probably will. Anyway, planned obsolescence. What is it? And what am I talking about? I remember being really pissed when I first learned about planned obsolescence, which is where companies design a product with the intent for it to only last a few years, so you have to replace it. The reason like your iPhone starts being kind of shitty at like the 2-year mark, that's by design, which is bullshit. And it doesn't need to be that way. When you're like, things used to last longer, well, they weren't designed to break down after a time. Your 1950s refrigerator is still running because it was designed to run forever. We don't do that anymore. So everything you own is going to need to be replaced or repaired eventually. In our culture today, that generally means you're going to need to replace it. Your washer went out, replace it. I feel like repairmen are definitely not as prevalent as they used to be. Things also aren't super built to be repaired by anymore. I can tell you from my limited mechanical experience, it is definitely a pleasure to work on older vehicles compared to newer ones. And that doesn't even count all the fucking sensors and shit. Car won't start? That's a damn sensor. That is some bullshit. And I've had that happen on a few cars where a fucking sensor goes out and the car doesn't know what to do. I just mean, if you try to go replace the starter in a 1978 Oldsmobile, you basically can crawl inside the engine compartment and leisurely remove it. The last vehicle I changed a starter in, it was ridiculous. It was my wife's old car. I had to remove the front passenger wheel, and I had to shimmy it over to the wheel well and drop it out. And that may have been the way that I had to put it in. What a load of horse shit. And I think that was just because that was the easiest way to remove it without removing some other things to get access to it. I don't quite remember, but yes, the easiest way to get it out was to remove the front fucking wheel and shove it out the wheel well. And that's, I'm sure, because they want to be space economical. They want you to just come buy a new one, and if you're going to get it worked on, they want you to go to their mechanics in the shop and charge you more, because it's like mechanics don't get paid by the hour. They get paid by the item, by the job, which works well for them. I had a mechanic explain to me like this, like, they don't get paid by the hour. Like, you get paid, like, say $100 a starter, $150 per alternator, like $1,000 for head gasket. I don't know, right? They get paid for the particular thing they're going to do. And it's generally considered like, this should take you X amount of time and this should take you X amount of time. So the time is a factor in their doing it, but it's like lenient, right? So a good mechanic can knock it out in like half the time. Dude, what are you doing? You jackass. So the more that they can do in the shorter amount of time, the more money they make. So that's another thing to consider when you're going to a mechanic shop. They want to do, generally, the good ones, or probably the lazy ones too, right? The ones in the middle are probably going to meet that time and move on, right? But the outliers want to stack as many jobs as possible to make the most money. So if it's supposed to take them an hour to do a starter, and they do 2 starters an hour, they double their money. And going fast can obviously lead to problems. Anyway, a real problem that occurs is a thing comes out. A James Co. washer 2000. And the washing machine comes out, and there are, through various websites, official and OEM replacement parts. There are parts you can get to fix and replace it for you, the consumer, or for repair people. Forgot to take cold medicine this morning, and I probably need to go buy some. Generally, those parts might work for a few different models, but eventually, those parts will become obsolete, and they'll invent new parts, and they will stop making those old parts, and the supply for those old parts will dwindle to nothing. And then you're not going to be able to fix your washer, your James Co. 2000 washer, because there are no parts for it anymore. And then you're trying to track down and replace the part. At my work, it was either a refrigeration cooling controller unit, right? It told you've been to a grocery store, the wall that your produce sits on that's refrigerated, it told that thing how to regulate the temperature. It was like, oh, too hot, turn down the temperature. Too cold, turn up the... Anyway, it was a computer unit for that. They no longer made those because it's so fucking old. And the board fried in it and needed to be replaced, so it wasn't regulating temperature right anymore. And the guy looked around and eventually found the last board in existence. And after that, I guess the next step was to replace everything or try to retrofit a newer control unit into the older equipment. I don't know. So anyway, eventually, you're not going to be able to get those repair parts anymore. So there's a couple strategies you could implement, especially for if the shit hits the fan, you're not going to be able to call around and track down obscure, obsolete parts or go to junkyards and pull out old parts first. If you've got the space and the money, you can find the most frequently in need. You can find what items need to be replaced most often, right? On your car, if you have a spare set of ignition coils, you'd probably be in pretty good shape. I had a car for some reason that just fucking ate them. They went out like 2 or 3 times in the time span that I owned it. The first time I went to the dealership that I got it from and had them replace it, and it was unholy expensive. And then after that, I started buying them off of like eBay and Amazon and putting them in myself for really cheap. So anyway, whatever it is, your car, your washer, your dryer, your fridge, find out what the most common problem is with it and have those spare parts on hand. You know, and obviously you can't keep a spare everything, but some things tend to fail more often, and you can definitely have backups of those. One time, I felt like my fuel pump might be going out. So I went ahead and I ordered a fuel pump off of eBay. And before I put that in there, I tried something else, and that worked, and my car was running fine for a while. There may have been signs, but one day the fuel pump did go out. That was the problem. And I was like, psh. My wife's like, what are we going to do? I'm like, shit, I got a fuel pump just sitting around at home. I'll just come put it in tomorrow. My car was stuck at work, and I had to have a ride home. So the next day, I just called out of work and then got dropped off there while I put in my fuel pump. And it was pretty easy. Probably easier than I put in a fuel pump in my wife's Volkswagen Beetle, and it was a bit of a pain in the ass, but mostly just because the fuel line clips were confusing on how to remove. I should have made a YouTube video like, oh, this is how you do it, because none of the videos I found were really good. Anyway, so that's one thing. Just have spare parts. 2, learn some workarounds. Some issues can be worked around. My wife's catalytic converter was going out, and one of my daughter's Girl Scout friends, a fellow Girl Scout, her dad was like, oh, I know 2 tricks to fix that. Because I'm like, oh man, catalytic converter, that's a lot of money. Probably not in the budget to replace that right now. And he was like, you can cut a hole in it and clean it out and get some more life out of it. He's like, or fuck it, you can just cut the fucker off and straight pipe it. Because we don't have emissions and whatnot here in the country. So that's what he did. Well, it turns out someone had already done that. They'd already cleaned it out and re-welded it, which is probably why it's flagging that it was going out. That turned out not to be the problem. We still don't know what it is. I gotta get a mechanic out there and look at it. So for a lot of things, there's ways to kind of work around it, right? You might not actually need a part, and you can kind of work around it. Or there's ways to fix it good enough without replacing it. One time driving home, there was a bad storm, and it left a rock in the road, and I didn't swerve in time, so I ran over this rock, and it fucking punctured a hole in my transmission. So all my transmission fluid leaked out. And, I was looking around for a transmission pan to replace it with and time. And then I just had the idea of getting some of that steel putty and I used that steel putty to plug the hole, and I mean then it just worked fine. Yeah, I just put a little piece of it, covered the hole, and it was good to go. So having some of that stuff on hand is probably a great idea. Thirdly, if you are mechanically inclined, there's a lot you can do to just manufacture your own small scale parts using a couple different methods. Okay. You can use like a small CNC machine to machine a lot of parts, like little screws and little connectors and stuff. And you can use a 3D printer to make a lot of parts. Learning to use either or both of those, I feel like you can take care of a lot of the issues that you need to do. Just making your own spare parts for shit. Also, there would be a business in that. You know, for now, after the shit hit the fan, people are like, "Oh, I need a spare part for this," and you figure out how to manufacture it and just slap them out. I mean, for now, or for like the shit hit the fan, where if there's a common issue now, and you can solve that problem with something, that is a very good thing. You can really make a lot of money from doing something like that. Also, there's other people doing that, and they're probably sharing it, right? So if you're a 3D printer, or probably a CNC person, there's CNC files they share around. You go to one of the file sharing sites, someone else may have already solved that problem, and they have their thing out there, right? So you could be making that and printing it for yourself and for others, right? Like you can sell in your local economy, go to like a flea market or something and set up a booth selling whatever product it is you're trying to do. So those are my thoughts on what to do if something breaks and you need to repair it. Hopefully this episode was enjoyable. I don't feel good. I do feel like it was a good topic, and my voice mostly held out good enough to record. Yesterday, there's no way I could have. I would have. Who's a really deep voiced motherfucker? I would have sounded like Christian Bale's Batman on the podcast. Would have been horrible. I'm Batman. Anyway, if you did enjoy this episode, please consider joining the Survival Punk Army or clicking through on Patreon. You can help support the show for really cheap. And there's some benefits. If you're on Patreon, you get the episode a day early, almost always. You at least get it a couple hours early. And on the Survival Punk Army, you get some more benefits, and it really helps support the show. And the goal of not having to drive to work at 4 in the morning. Anyway, this has been James from SurvivalPunk.com. DIY to survive, you guys.
Sky is falling, bombs are raining, world's on fire, no more blaming. Economic crash can't stop the craving. Food is scarce, but we're remaining. Aliens came with no warning, stole the sun, now it's morning. Countries fight, no more courting. World War III, but we're still storming. Through the chaos, we're surviving. Hand in hand, we keep on striving. When all's lost and hope is dying, we've got each other, no denying. Ash and rubble, streets are crying. No one's trading, tongues are lying. Banks are broken, fortunes flying. We stay strong despite the lying. Through the chaos, we're surviving. Hand in hand, we keep on striving. When all's lost and hope is dying, we've got each other, no denying. Stars are cold, but nights are glowing. Love and strength we keep on showing. End of days, but we're still flowing. Hearts are full when tears are snowing. Hand in hand we keep on striving. When all's lost and hope is dying, we've got each other, no denying.